So right now we're going to bring in our friend Fraser Cain. Fraser is the, go ahead and bring him in whenever we can. Fraser is the publisher of Universe Today, and he's also one of the co-hosts of Astronomy Casts, one of the very few podcasts that can claim an equally long legacy as 13 years. Actually, I'm not sure about that. We're going to have to ask him when that came in. Fraser I've known for a long time. I guess the first time we met was at, hey sir, how you doing?
Good.
I guess the first time we met was at a Dragon Con in Atlanta. And we all walked to the aquarium.
A presentation, and you were lurking.
I was working?
You were lurking.
Oh, lurking. as I tend to do. So about 2 months ago, maybe you were in town here in Bend, Oregon, and we went over to the Worthy Brewing Company where they have. How would you describe that? Is that it's not a consumer grade telescope. It's not a research grade telescope. What?
No. In between.
In between. They have an in-between grade telescope there.
Yeah.
And we had a great time with Grant, the guy that runs it. And it was really fun to chat and catch up and everything. But I was just wondering, just before we brought you on, how long has Astronomy Cast been going?
Astronomy Cast has been going, I think we're on our 13th season right now, but I literally have lost count. So
today is our 13th birthday. So does that mean we're a little bit ahead of you? Because I think you were around before Skeptoid was. When did you start? When was your first episode?
We started in September. We started like Labor Day. So I think we're like a month ahead.
We just froze a second. You were a month ahead, so Labor Day 2006?
I think we're a month ahead of it, yeah. Labor Day 2006. Maybe it's 2007, though. I don't know. Like every single, like you may know, I run a lot of media projects, and each one has a birthday. So I only remember one, which is when I started Universe Today.
You're a crazy busy man.
Yeah, and that's the one that I get to say that I've been doing this job for 20 years, is from Universe Today, which was back in 1999.
Right. Now, I recognize on your shelf behind you, I recognize the Parsec Award right there, because you
mean the multiple Parsec Awards that I stole from you?
We both have Parsec Awards, which is very awesome. And I guess they were in the same category. Fact behind the fiction, right?
Yeah. So what happened was, you and others kept beating Astronomy Cast, and so so I went and just did my video series, and I figured video trumps audio. And but you know what? I have never told anyone this, but you were actually one of the inspirations for me jumping into the video. Was the short little Skeptoid videos that you were doing way back in the day. I don't know if you still do them, but back in the day you were doing them. I think you were in front of a green screen. And they were great, and I really enjoyed them. And it was sort of one of the inspirations to finally take the plunge and do more video. And now it's obviously consumed my life, but it was. So thank you.
Yeah, I do still do those, but not very often. Since, as you know, video is way more resource intensive than audio. You can do 10 audio podcasts in the time it takes you to do one video of the same length, right?
Yes.
Or gosh, more. So I crowdfund them now, and I only produce them once the thermometer gets filled and it's paid in advance. Then other than that, it's just not worth the time. I mean, I love doing them. I think they're fantastic resources, but my gosh, it's a lot of work.
It really is. And in fact, we crossed the 800 patron mark a couple of months ago, and then I said, sort of as a celebration for that, we're going to do double the number of videos every week until I burn out, and give all, we're going to be able to give the money to the people on the team. So I was able to give everybody more work, and so we're about 3 months into this experiment so far, and I'm still alive. So steady she goes. Although I did have to hit the abort button this week because I just got overwhelmed. And I'm like, that's it, only one this week, and then next week I'll do another one.
Yeah, sure. That's how it begins. That's how it begins, folks. He said, next week I'll be able to catch up and get back on schedule.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Looks like you're having a bit of a rainy day there, sir.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, aren't you?
No. This is Bend, Oregon. It's clear and beautiful all the time. And you're up in Remind us where you are. I forget the name of your island.
So this is the first storm that we've had this, in this season. So now I know it's this is our normal, but this is the first time that we've hit our normal this year.
So I didn't mean to get off track because we were talking about the fact behind the fiction category for the Parsec Awards, and now my show, obviously that's kind of the core topic. We're looking at things that people believe that's not true, but that has more interesting facts behind it. And for Astronomy Cast, the Parsec was for Astronomy Cast, right? Not for videos or anything else?
No, we couldn't get one for Astronomy Cast.
Oh, so it was for the videos.
Yeah, it was for the videos. Yeah, so 3 years in a row we won them for the videos, and then finally and then we got one for Astronomy Cast.
So what is the intersection between, I guess, do you think of it as scientific skepticism when you're doing the fact behind the fiction kind of thing, the debunking? What's the intersection between that and astronomy?
Well, I'm like, skepticism, I think, is a big part of my inspiration for even just getting into this field in the first place. I think for many people, I read Demon Haunted World, and it was a bolt of lightning going into my brain that gave me a different perspective for the way I see everything. And so these days, it is still, and I watched the interview with the previous guest, and I could give the version of that, but as it relates to astronomy, right? That there is so much skepticism and just like science explaining that is required. I mean, even just with the term with Astronomy Cast, it's baked into our introduction, right? Which is not only what we know, but how we know what we know. And because that is, I feel like that's super important for us to get across, that it's not just someone has got some wacky theory, it's that the things that astronomers and scientists in general believe comes from this deep, long, intensive process of building up evidence and coming to a conclusion.
As much as you say that you may have been inspired to some degree by the Skeptoid videos to do your videos, I was definitely inspired by that statement in your intro, not just what we know, but how we know it, because that is always the more interesting story.
Yeah.
Even if, and that's why we can talk about something stupid like Bigfoot, as the example I always give of, a relatively childish subject that doesn't really enter into the thoughts of the normal intelligent adult in the 21st century, right? But when you get into the how we know it, that's the lesson that applies to everything else in life that is relevant to people.
Yeah, and I find that's a really great way to have a conversation with somebody about one of these topics. Is someone makes some statement, and then I just say, "How do you know?" And then they get to continue, but then they get to tell me how they know, and then I can say to them, I'm still not convinced, right? That
was Sagan's conversation with the cab driver in the introduction to Candle in the Dark, wasn't it?
Oh, I got to read the book again. It was like 25 years ago that I actually read it and had my mind awoken. But I'll take another crack at it.
So what's tell us whether Hunumunu Puana Mana was a alien spaceship or a piece of rock.
So how do we know that Oumuamua is an alien spacecraft and not a rock?
That's the word I was going for. No, how do we know which it is and which it isn't?
Well, it can always be aliens, right? So you can always go with it could be aliens, right? Because essentially that's the same thing as saying it could be magic, right?
Right.
How did those pyramids get built? Well, it could have been built by a bunch of people with advanced skills and hard work and a knowledge of triangles, or it could be magic or aliens, whatever, alien magic aliens. So a lot of the time that whole idea of, it could be aliens is, you could just say it could be magic. You can't say that it isn't. And so it's not necessarily doesn't necessarily make sense to say that it is. You've got an asteroid passing through the solar system, and the part that's fascinating about that object is that it is accelerating in a funny way, and And that acceleration could be due to the fact that it's actually a comet and not an asteroid, and we just didn't see the coma and the tail in a way that you would normally see. But there are reasons and explanations why that could be the case. Or it could be a solar sail that is getting accelerated by the sun. It was here to quickly probe the solar system, and now it's moving off to its next target out there in the Milky Way. Both of those are explanations for what it could be. And so it's really, goes back to, until you have some kind of evidence that it is an alien spacecraft, then it's not a very useful theory.
So I would be comfortable saying that it's not an alien spacecraft. I mean, would you be comfortable making that declaration?
No, not really. I mean, it's like, it doesn't, because I enjoy, the part of it that I do enjoy is the thought process of what would it take to send an alien spacecraft. You know, we want to send alien spacecraft to other star systems, then there is a method that we would want to go about it. We would want to build a solar sail, we'd want to shoot it with a laser beam, we'd want to have it make a flyby and record data. So I think that you just need to, I think, like, when you say that it is not, then you are putting yourself in very dangerous territory. It's the same thing as, like, you saying that you know that there isn't a God, right? Like, as long as you're not the one making the statements, then the definitive statements one way or the other, then you're not the one who is making a bad argument. And so for me, I'm a lot more interested. If a person says, could it be an alien spacecraft? I'm like, well, yeah, it could be, sure. Find out, let me know what you see. Send a probe, build a new telescope, send a radio transmission. I mean, there are ways to find out. And when you have convinced me, then I'm on board with your alien spacecraft. But let's just agree that for now, we don't know. And in fact, it's probably a comet. So I am, and maybe that's just my gentle Canadian demeanor. I am a lot, like, if you come to my channel, and even just like the way that I like to approach this, it's I'm a lot less confrontational than I think a lot of other channels. I'm a very soft-spoken member of the skeptic community, because I don't think it's really working the way people were hoping that it was going to work. And that's not my approach.
I find that if I were to say that it might be a comet and it might be an alien spaceship, because there's things we can say about it that are consistent with both. If I were to say that, because I interact with these people every day or almost every day, a lot of people would say, see, he just said it could be an alien spacecraft. And since that's the part of what I said that confirms their preferred belief, they're going to walk away believing I just confirmed it for them. So that's why I don't go as qualified as you do.
I think that, like, the person, again, like, we're sort of, we're playing a lot of inside baseball here, but the person who really formed my thinking on this is actually Richard Saunders, from Australia, right? The skeptic from Australia. And he goes on a lot of TV shows, and it's that exact process where people are saying, here are the things that I saw, and here's the things that I want to believe. And Richard is very positive and very enthusiastic and very encouraging about thinking about those kinds of ideas. And I think that's important, because a lot of the time, their enthusiasm in this topic is just, has gotten off to a bad start. And so I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always, they make, everyone makes sort of a first shot at me. And I'm sure the kinds of shots they make. They insult me, they make some statement without any evidence to back it up. They will threaten me as part of a vast conspiracy. They will, accuse me of being on the pay of whatever. And my first response always to them is like hey, let's work together to figure this thing out, right? Mm-hmm. That's the general way that I approach every one of those questions. And then it's their opportunity to double down. So if they come back at me and go, whatever, and they insult my appearance, they insult my beautiful Canadian accent, my, any of that, then they get banned, right? Like you headshot, you chide, and then there's no conversation, right? Just, not, we're not going to, you're not going to be, even like a person who I can have a polite disagreement with, right? Those are the people I love to have in my community and have around. And every time something comes up, we can have an argument about it, we can disagree about it. And a lot of those people will work their way closer and closer to me as sort of, we become almost friends.
Yeah.
It's the people who are just mean. And I don't have time for that, right? So that's kind of my general approach to it all the time. And I find that you see a very acerbic negative response to people who are genuinely enthusiastic about the state of the search for extraterrestrials, or the state of spaceflight, or the state of physics, right? Like they love this stuff and they wish it was true. But the reality is it's not true. But there's enough stuff that is exactly the same, but it is true. And so it's just a matter of being able to bring them on board and get them up to speed.
Can you bring up the picture? We've got a photo from us at the brewery. It's called 08 Worthy. Bring that picture up. So this is just a little snapshot that you and I took when we were at the observatory here in Bend, and the guy in the picture.
Wearing the same sweater.
Oh my gosh! You only have one sweater. I guess things aren't doing too well at Astronomy Cast these days. Well, yeah, things will look up.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, the guy in the picture there with us, that's Grant that runs the telescope. And one thing that I'm kind of envious about Grant is that the questions he gets almost all night long, every night that he's there, are genuine questions where people have no idea and they want to know, and they're saying, basically some version of what is this amazing thing I'm looking at. And occasionally he's told me, I think he probably told us both, that occasionally he gets the flat earthers in there or people who go there to argue, but that's the rare exception. It's mostly just people who have a genuine enthusiasm. And I never, because of maybe what I do is different enough, I never ever get that. I get pretty much only people whose mind is already positively made up that we are actively being visited by aliens and that I am being paid by NASA to cover it up. And I never get the opportunity to have those kinds of conversations that you're talking about. I mean, I do, but only very rarely.
Yeah, but I think part of it is your response to the person. I mean, I've always really held that part of our job, like these conversations are had in public. And so it's not about convincing the person that you're talking to, it's about convincing the person who's sitting at the sidelines and watching this conversation take place.
Right.
And it's our job to have a fair fight, to be polite and to be magnanimous and to be appropriate. And that gives off all of the, it virtue signals the people who are watching that you have virtue, right? That you are being a fair and reasonable person, that you are attempting to have a polite conversation with a person who may disagree with you. And I think that is the most important thing, is that the people who are watching come away going, this guy was really mean and that guy was patient and calm and did what he could, right? I agree that the vast majority of the people who are coming guns blazing have already got their minds made up, and this isn't the community for them, right? Like go somewhere else. Like, this is not for you. This is for the people. And I feel, I mean, it's your bread and butter. So obviously you have to tackle these topics. I don't bother. I focus on the topics that are interesting to me, right? Let's all agree, we place a bunch of assertions. Let's all agree that space is a real thing, the Earth is a sphere, rockets are cool, Saturn is over there, and then let's talk about how we play in this universe and how we do things. And if you don't want to be a part of this conversation, that's fine. This isn't for you. Go join your forums and talk amongst each other about the things you don't believe in.
I'm curious to know what would be your answer to one of the frequent questions that I get, that I imagine you get too, which is, are aliens visiting the Earth, or have they in the past? Or do aliens even exist? Or they'll throw the straw man at you. You're saying aliens didn't build the pyramids? You think we're alone in the universe? How arrogant of you.
Yeah.
How do you answer that whole question?
Well, I do kind of feel like we're alone in the universe. So I will have that conversation. I'll say that, right? Which is that, and then we talk about the Fermi paradox and the fact that the universe is old, the universe is big, and life on Earth formed as quickly as it could. And yet everywhere we look in the entire universe, we don't see any evidence of aliens. And that is a really unsettling thought. And the more you think about it, and the more you try to come up with explanations for what that is, if you say, oh, it's just because they're far away, or oh, it's just because the technology is really hard, or oh, it's because they don't want to, or they're living in a simulation, or they've transcended to a higher consciousness, or whatever, there is a really good response to each one of those questions, each one of those counters to the Fermi paradox. And so for me, I have not heard a compelling argument that why there shouldn't be aliens everywhere and why they shouldn't be visiting our planet. And so that has kind of led me to the final, to my conclusion that we either were first, ideally, or we're the only one, which we're first, we're the only one, or something wipes out intelligent civilizations 100% of the time. And that's a terrifying response. So this is a fascinating conversation. And so when I have this conversation, I want to make it really clear to them that I want to know this answer. I want to know the answer to the most important question that a human being can ask, as much or more than they do. But if I think that I know the answer, I want to know that I'm right. That's all, right? And so we have different standards for compelling evidence. And for the most important question, I want to know. And I'm an atheist, but if someone wants to have a conversation about God, it is one of the most important questions that a human being can ask, right? Is there a supernatural power? So the answer's got to be compelling. The evidence has got to be overwhelming, not mysterious. And so that is, and if they don't want to have that conversation, if they don't want to be in awe, and they don't want to be fascinated by just how the Fermi paradox works, and if they want to double down and be, an asshole, then this is not the community for them, and they can just go, please.
I wish I'd used the word "please" in that manner many more times than I have.
Yeah, that's the way of me clicking the ban button, right? So, yeah.
So, what do you have a bet on whether we will find life in the solar system, and if so, where? If you had to be a betting man.
Yeah, well, so life has been moving back and forth from world to world, in theory, thanks to panspermia. Asteroid smashes into Earth, throws the ejecta out into space, the ejecta moves through space, lands on Mars. So material has been moving from world to world throughout history. So even if we do find life on Europa or Enceladus or Mars, the first question that we're going to need to ask is it related to us? If it is related to us, when did it branch away from us? So that's a fascinating question. I would say, the best places to search for life are probably Europa, Enceladus, any of these ocean worlds that are in the solar system, because just yesterday they found the raw materials for amino acids in the geysers coming out of Enceladus.
Wait! What is this new thing from tomorrow? I've been prepping for this stupid, terrible idea of a 13-hour marathon, so I've been sequestered for 72 hours.
Really interesting news has been breaking all the time. Yeah.
What's new with Enceladus then?
They found the organic molecules that go into amino acids,
and found it spectroscopically from Earth.
No, they did it with Cassini. So they were able to look through the Cassini data from the flybys, and they were able to piece together, seeing, they had already found hydrogen gas in these geysers, so that's food for bacteria, and now they found essentially the raw materials for life as well. So you've got the building blocks for life, as well as food for life, as well as liquid water. Like, that's it. That's all life requires. The question is now, is there life? And that still is, an unknown. But if there's going to be one place that we're going to find it, it's probably going to be Europa or Enceladus.
Don't we have a mission planned for a low-level flyby on Enceladus to go through those geysers and directly sample?
Europa. The Europa Clipper. Yeah,
the Europa
going to be
Clipper,
going and doing a lot of analysis on Europa. It's going to be doing all this spectroscopy. It's going to be doing ground-penetrating radar to try and map out if there are chambers of water close to the surface that maybe could be easier to access. So they're going to do a lot of work trying to figure out Europa. Europa is probably better than Enceladus, and it's closer and it's easier to get to. So I think that a lot of really interesting work is going to be done at Enceladus. But I think that is going to be, if there's a place in the solar system that we're going to find life, that's the way it's going to be. But I think the place that we're going to find life the first time is probably going to be one, like something like James Webb or one of these really big telescopes that are coming online that will directly image planets orbiting other stars. And they're going to be using the ability to sense the atmospheres of these planets and searching for biosignatures. And they'll tell us if there's life there. There will be chemicals in the atmosphere of planets orbiting other stars. There will be a clear indication that there's life there.
Well, I would love to have this conversation all day because it's a subject that's of great interest to both of us, I think. But we are unfortunately out of time. But however,
Happy 13th birthday.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I have noted on my notes here, because I'm talking to Pamela later, I'm going to say, Fraser says we're alone in the universe. And I'm going to see what she says about that.
Yeah, she knows how I feel.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated, my friend.
Great to be here. Anytime, man. Anytime I can help you raise some money, I'm there.
Oh, okay, yeah. Retweet the skeptoid.com/birthday page, and because that's where people can watch you.
Will do.
Okay, man. Bye.
All right, take care.